we live in a society sort of thing. But we live in a society of our own making. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Stepsbasic, and welcome back to my community show. Woo. See, I can still do the musical thing, even though I'm evil now. Rawr. Anyway. That's terrible. Anyway, so, first of all, of course, announcements. I have been having so much fun with the Spooktober this year. Song of Horror is just excellent, and I've lost 2 characters, and that sucked, but apart from that, it's been cool, and I've been really enjoying myself with it. 2 new additions. I got me a new little flat cap. I love these things. My first one I remember I bought back when I was in the military, but yeah, that was a while ago. And of course, now I'm wearing suspenders because I'm old and I keep breaking my belts. Anyway, that's not what's important. Apart from that, continue on with weekend stuff. So if you missed last weekend, I'm now uploading over the weekends as well, because I may have bitten off more than I can chew when it comes to time for videos. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit different, and Sunday is going to finish off the Dread X collection, because I'm done with that now. But come back Monday is when we're going to get back into Song of Horror, and we'll start the Dread X collection 2. So, apart from all of that, I also have some more things in the works, in the planning for more episodes. Anyway, so on to the topic for today. I wrote down some topics for spookiness, for Spooktober stuff. So let's discuss one of the more interesting aspects of what I was discussing last time. Now, I mentioned that the number one way, the most likely and most ideal way that we would see an end of the world scenario would be destruction of economy, environment, loss of resources, and essentially societal collapse. Now, societal collapse is generally endgame of most apocalypse scenarios, where society crumbles in on itself and everybody resorts to, hate and mistrust and just the usual stuff you see in 2020 these days, right? But I always thought it was an interesting topic, an interesting item. I remember when I was very young, my mother told me that she was quoting somebody, I don't remember who it was, but essentially amounts to society is 3 days away from anarchy at any given moment, which is actually, extrapolated to 3 days of meals away from societal collapse. And it's interesting to think about how fragile our social structure is when it comes to things like that, because, they force these ideas on us, these societal constructs on us of be good to your neighbor, treat everyone well, and you'll be treated well sort of thing. But then the rules go out the window the moment there's a tragedy, the moment there's an economic disaster, an ecological disaster. And we start to see just how animal-like people can become. And you see the destruction, the death, and just what it leads to. Now, of course, movies will go on to portray, movies and games and everything will go on to portray just how, dangerous end of the world, end times can be when it comes to how humanity continues to try to survive. And I find these ideas, these scenarios to be fascinating, because it's an in-depth look into the human psyche, the human mind, and how they will eventually break down. And like I said, just how fragile the rules are when it comes to survival. Society is not so much a completely human construct, because we have various societies within the animal kingdom as well, and they are all based on structures. You think of the alpha wolf wolf pack, the leader of the pack, and the the various forms of wolves that they take, including the outcasts, the elderly, and wolves are actually a good focus when it comes to that sort of thing. When you look at the alpha wolf, most humans get wrong what the idea of the alpha is. They think, oh, the strongest, the most powerful, when in fact they're often the leader, but a true leader, one who sacrifices themselves for their pack. And, of course, dominance, battles, and whatnot. And this is a very interesting idea. Anyway, back to humans. When we think about, we see it in real life. We see what happens when the social norms collapse. The people cast aside the ideals that they've been trained over and over throughout their life, and they always come about through tragedy. Something horrible happens, let's burn this place down, sort of thing. And like hurricanes, natural disasters, they spurn on a lot of mistrust and hate and misdirected anger, because obviously we can't be mad at the earth, because what are we going to do? Rage at the dirt and say, why did you send this storm my way and wipe out my village or city? As the most iconic one I remember is Hurricane Katrina and New Orleans flooding and all that stuff. That's the one I remember the most when I think about natural disasters, because that one was a big one. But before that, I'd even heard of Hurricane Andrew, which was the joke in the house because my middle name's Andrew and I used to be called Andy, and that hurricane was me. So, the joke in the house is I was a very destructive force as a child. The interesting part is, though, even though, these aren't global destruction events. These are localized to, cities like New Orleans and whatnot. But even then, we saw the one thing that would prevent a complete and total societal collapse was humanity's drive to be social. And you see it portrayed in movies as well, when people aren't immediately, shoot on sight sort of thing. They start talking and try to form a dialogue. They form groups of people, and then the groups, once they're safely into a societal structure, will start attacking other groups and whatnot. But apart from that, you'll always see it where the humans will try to form a safe society again. Because on the whole, us humans are very social creatures. So to see something that completely strips away all of our humanity and reduces us to nothing more than beasts bent solely on survival is, well, terrifying. And I'm going back to the anime I talked about last time, A Wind Called Amnesia, or A Wind Named Amnesia. Turns out I was wrong about the name when I was looking it up. I was a little incorrect, but it's okay. A Wind Named Amnesia. Now, this one's an obscure anime, and I don't know many people who have watched it. It's a standalone movie as far as I know. But it talks about having our complete memories erased, even to the point of we don't remember how to speak. And the breakdown in the communication resulted in a further breakdown, a further loss of society, until the young woman showed up and restored the memory of the boy in the movie. And, it's a, man. All anime protagonists look like little boys anyway. But and the sort of thing was, you get to really see a look at, even in that case, when we couldn't talk, we had no idea how things worked, there was still a sense of society, a sense of being and belonging and needing to be a part of a group. Even in that one, even in that scenario, even in real life scenarios. So how far do we actually have to go before complete and total societal collapse? How far until we don't even want another person around us? Considering the fact that we are all social creatures and it's very hard to think about not living within a city, not living in a town, living completely isolated from all of society, how far does the world have to go before we don't want us anymore? We just want me. Of course, there is obviously something to be said for living alone. You know, being that grungy mountain man who just lives out in the forest, you know, completely isolated, living apart from society and as far away from it as they can. Honestly, something I've fantasized about. But even then, we seek companionship in various forms of another, including animals and, you know, bears and wolves and squirrels and falcons and all that stuff. We seek companionship. I'm not really sure I have an answer, but I think the one thing that would drive people completely apart is if there was absolutely no more resources and the only source of food we could find was ourselves, other people. In which case that would make it so that literally the only way to survive would be to kill other human beings. And even then, we might still see groups forming around the centralized goal of let's not die. And of course, you know, I often joke about it. Cannibalism is always funny until it happens to you. But even in those groups, you would start to see hunger and whatnot as the numbers of human beings started dropping. Whew. I'm going down some dark paths now, trying to imagine societal collapse. Because in the end, I always come back to the fact that humans always try to be a part of a society. They always try to be a part of a group. So what makes a society? Now, of course, like I mentioned, it is it's a pretty standard thing where we make up rules. You know, don't kill, don't steal, don't touch anybody without permission, don't other things that I'm not going to mention because of their evil quality to them. And we all understand these rules. We all abide by these rules, and we understand that if we don't do these things, other people won't do these things. And that is the societal contract. That is what we have all agreed to when we move into a society, when we live in a city with a group of other people. There is nothing within that idea that says we have to take care of each other, just the idea that we don't do bad to other people so that they won't do bad to us, sort of thing. This does raise an interesting idea, though. Like, if we were all granted one murder, like, you have one murder from the day you were born to the day you die, you are allowed to kill one person. How much would that urge people to be nicer to other people? Like, oh, this person, I don't know if this person's killed their one person yet. And, you know, you say, come up to a person who's acting like a jerk, and you're like, you know, I haven't killed anyone yet. And they'll be like, whoa, no. And of course, you know, somebody says that nowadays, and it's like, oh, well, that's just silly. Oh, too bad. Because, you know, it's illegal to murder. And the idea that everyone is granted one murder might actually create a stronger bond as opposed to saying you're not allowed to ever kill anybody. Now, of course, I'm not advocating for this, obviously, because, you know, it's just a thought experiment, a little idea. And honestly, I'm not even sure if it's my idea, because I may have heard it from somewhere before, but I can never remember. Because sometimes I hear things and then I forget where I heard them from, and then they just work their way around in my brain. So more often than not, I just say along the lines of, this is an interesting idea. I'm not sure if it's mine, but but it is a kind of interesting idea. Like, I have never killed anyone before. So therefore, I am entitled to one death, one murder. So everybody around me better be nice to me. But then that also goes the opposite way of, if that person has committed their one murder, their one legal murder, then what happens then? Do we still treat them badly? Because, oh, well, I guess you can't kill me, so it's cool. It's another interesting idea, moving along from the murder idea to something a little minor, a little more minor, is the idea of presented by Liar Liar. Additionally, also the history of lies from Ricky Gervais. I've always thought those two movies were an interesting dichotomy, you know. In Liar Liar, we have Jim Carrey playing a lawyer who's not allowed to lie anymore. For one whole day, he's not allowed to tell any lies. And this drives him to try to be a better person. Because he cannot lie, so he cannot hide any dirty laundry, as it were. So he tries to be a better person. That's one person in the entirety of the world who cannot lie. But then we look at the history of lies with Ricky Gervais in it and another comedy. But in this case, everybody cannot lie. Nobody can tell a lie. And in the end, this results in everyone just being blatant buttholes. So in a way, even though we're socially taught that lies are bad, we also understand that lies are important sometimes. And of course, obviously the white lies are one thing, and also lies of omission are another thing, because watching the history of lying with, I'm not sure if it's a history of lies, history of lying, but it had Ricky Gervais in it. It was good. I'll put it up on the screen somewhere. But watching that movie made me realize that there is a difference between not lying and always telling the truth. Because in one case, I don't lie by not saying anything. I am not lying to you if I don't tell you how I actually feel. Technically, it's called the lie of omission when you don't reveal all the information. But at the same time, I wouldn't count it so much as a lie in some cases because it's not necessary. Watching the history of lying, you see the boss character just be blatantly jerkish to people around him, whereas he could just not say things and it wouldn't count as a lie because it's just not him saying something. Now, of course, there was no discussion about lies of omission in there. Like if somebody asks you directly, how do you feel about this shirt? They tell you, well, it makes you look fat. That's straight up honesty. But if somebody wears a shirt that makes them look fat and you don't say anything, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because their feelings aren't hurt. You never had to say anything in the first place. So therefore, yeah. But anyway, going back to what I got a little distracted. The societal construct of lying is interesting in that in some cases it seems very necessary to maintain order within our society. Therefore, telling everyone the truth could actually be more damaging than lying about it or not talking about it in the same way. Going back again to the shirt analogy. If they ask me directly, how's this shirt look? And I say, it makes you look fat, they'll change their shirt and they will feel no self-conscious out of it. However, if they wear that shirt, they don't ask me and I don't say anything, then they can go their whole day blissfully unaware. But there's also the idea that if they ask me and I tell them the truth and they change their shirt feeling a little insulted, but then they don't ask me and I never say anything, and then they get insulted later on by somebody who thinks it's okay to just blurt out what they want to say, then they'll look at me like, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell me the shirt was bad? And they're a little hurt, a little offended, whatever. Society's weird, man. And of course, the whole idea of this started from the meme, right? We live in a society sort of thing. But we live in a society of our own making, and we all agree to it upon our birth to abide by the laws and the rules of our society so that we can live within it in peace. Unfortunately, there is no such thing as peace. Mankind is always bent on destruction and death, and they will fight each other and kill each other for no reason, for hardly any reason. Maybe I'm hungry this month and they have more food than me, therefore they must die. Or I must take what's theirs because it belongs to me. I deserve it more than they do. And that just keeps going on and on and on and on until we spiral into a situation where we've used up all of our resources. Our planet is dying. The very few resources we do have are controlled by the very few rich and powerful people in our world. And those of us without are left to die. Anyway, I think I've rambled on about this enough. I find it an interesting idea to think about the collapse of society all around and just how much it would take to drive humanity to completely separate from each other. Now, and I'm not talking about isolated cases, but, globally, all humans want to just avoid all other humans. And it does seem to take a lot because no matter what, in the end, I can always see humanity striving for at least one connection. We are not nomads. We are not isolated people. We're social creatures. We want the society. We want the structure. And when that fails us and we have nothing left to catch us, that's when we will all perish. But anyway, that's all for me for today. Thank you all so much for joining me for this episode of The Community Show. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you did, please go and poke that like button for me. If you'd like to see more from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And of course, as always, you are more than welcome to leave a comment down in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. When I can, if I can, you know all that jazz. And tune in next time for another episode and a more community show. And until then, good night.